Good morning, everyone. Just
Morning.
so thankful to have you all on this call. My name is Chanel Cornett, and I am a legal and policy officer at Fair Trials America, where we work to improve respect for the fundamental right to a fair trial. And today we have with us Nancy Hollander and Mohamedou Ould Salahi. And we'll be discussing the Mauritanian, which just came out, and it's about Mohamedou's story of being imprisoned at Guantanamo Bay for 14 years without ever being convicted of a crime or ever being charged with a crime or ever given a trial, and his attorney, Nancy Hollander, who secured his freedom.
Why didn't you tell us?
They're nothing. Like fantasy. None of that happened.
You signed them.
They made me.
They made you, as in they coerced you?
What do you think?
I don't know. You tell me. Did they coerce you? But you gotta tell me what happened, Mohamedou.
You're asking me to set fire to this place, but I'm still sitting.
Well, then write it down. All right, that's what the pages are for. Write it down. You need to tell me the truth. You need to tell me what happened to you. I can't defend you. Do you understand that?
I don't need to tell you nothing. Whatever I say, it doesn't matter. This fucking island, I die here.
So just to get started, I would love for you all to introduce yourself, tell me where you are, and also to answer the question of what does a fair trial mean to you, and why is it important?
I really don't know what the definition of fair trial, but philosophically to me, a fair trial would look like immediate relief for an innocent person against the violence, the awesome power of the state. Because a regular citizen like you, me, or Nancy, or whoever, we don't have the police. We don't have weapons. We cannot grab people from the street and put them in prison. But the state can do all the above, rightly or wrongly. And it can only be fair that they should not use the violence against innocent people. And I think also that fair trial also would entail that an innocent person whose rights have been violated should be prepared in a manner as if nothing had happened, just as if nothing happened to him. I know this is very hard, but I think that should be the goal in a free society.
And where are you now, Mohamedou?
From fair trial, I'm very far. Physically, I'm in Mauritania, and I'm with my family. My family is visiting me now. Kiri, my wife, and my son Ahmed, because I cannot visit them in Germany because of this circular argument. If you had been to Guantanamo Bay, you deserve to be in Guantanamo Bay. And there is no going out of this circle, vicious circle.
Thank you, Chanel. My name is Nancy Hollander. I'm on the board of trustees of Fair Trial America. I'm very, very proud to be a part of fair trials and to do everything I can to support fair trials around the world. The definition of a fair trial may depend to some extent on where one is, but it should mean to me that anybody who is charged with a crime is released from any pretrial confinement, if at all possible, that the person have counsel from the very first moment of a charge so that that person knows what all the rights are that are available in the particular society, that every right that that person is entitled to is there, that everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty, and that the state, or as Mohamedou says, and I say, the awesome power of the government, when it comes down on that individual, must use fair and legitimate process, no torture, no intimidation. And if then the government is right, if that person is proven to be guilty, using fair process with all the process that's due, with counsel, with all the experts and evidence that person needs, then the discussion is what is a fair sentence. But until that time, people should be out of jail and should be able to have all the resources the government has to defend themselves.
Absolutely. So I think a round of applause and congratulations is due, given that the Mauritanian just won the Golden Globe. Jodie Foster just won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress. And I think it's awesome that the movie in your story, Mohamedou, is being recognized on a global scale. So I'm interested in knowing from both of you what it was like to see your story depicted in a motion picture. Mohamedou, if you'd like to start.
This movie is mainly a very exemplary case of David against Goliath, because Nancy was a private person and her firm is very small, very small. They have very limited resources. And she was fighting against the most powerful country in the world, who took it upon itself to do everything to prevent the court or justice or the rule of law interfere with their shenanigans in Guantanamo Bay. But this movie shows that, you know, this insistence and this like hard-headedness and this very deep belief in the rule of law. She didn't know me, and we are not from the same cultural background. And if I was her, for instance, I would look at myself as, yeah, he looks like the people who did this 9/11. He really looks like them. He talks like them. He's from the same place like them. Why should I help him? But she looked very farther away. She said, this is not about him. This is about destroying this beautiful country we all live in. Because when they allow themselves to treat any human beings outside the law, what prevents them to do this to me or to my neighbor? But this is very hard to see, you know. But now today we know that she was right. She was right that the government, if allowed to act outside the law, you cannot prevent them to repeat it and to do it to yourself. You know, in America, that is still not clear. It's, you know, like saying that only American citizens deserve to be treated with dignity, no one else. But I challenge and I dare say that all human beings should be treated equally, no matter what nationality, no matter what color, no matter what religion.
And Nancy, what was it like to see yourself on the screen and your story depicted that way?
Watching Jodie Foster play me and seeing this whole story come to life was truly, I'm almost beyond words to explain how happy it makes me. I signed the contract for this movie when Mohamedou was still in prison. It was in 2015. At that time, we didn't know if we'd ever have a movie. We hoped that if we did, it would help Mohamedou get out of prison. We never knew when he would get out, but he got out. And now we are hopeful that this film will help the other 40 get out and close Guantanamo, end indefinite detention, and provide fair trials for those who are charged, or at least fair process. But to go back to your exact question of what was it like to see Jodie Foster playing me, Jodie told me that this would not be an impersonation. Then she has said over and over that she's meaner than I am. And I hope that's true. I don't think I'm as mean or curt as she is in the movie, but most people, my friends, debate me on this, so maybe I am. But we all, everyone, the actors and me and Terry, all see this as a movie about Mohamedou's story and in support of Mohamedou and Tahar. And Terry Duncan, who is played by Shailene Woodley in this movie, the character of Terry in this movie is not really like the real Terry. That character, but it's really a proxy for the audience. The audience thinks Mohamedou's guilty at that time. And so this character is really a proxy for what we know the audience is thinking at that time. I want to stress that the real Teresa Terry Duncan is now, she was my associate lawyer at that time. She is now an accomplished federal death penalty lawyer. We still have the death penalty in this country, and she would never care whether anyone is guilty or innocent. She's brilliant, and she was there from the very beginning with me and Mohamedou.
Nancy, you mentioned the 40 that are still being held at Guantanamo, and Mohamedou, you actually had some advocacy with, joining a letter that was sent to President Biden about closing it. So I am interested in knowing if you all think that Biden will have better chances at getting Guantanamo closed than President Obama. And could you talk a little bit about what you think the political challenges have been with it closing? Mohamedou, if you'd like to start.
Yes, there are like two letters, one that I co-signed with other former detainees, and one that I wrote alone and sent to the new president, Mr. Biden. Actually, I do believe in Biden. I think he's a good guy. I have no reason to believe otherwise. And I hope he proved me right. He suffered. He understood what suffering means. He lost his wife at a very young age, and he lost his son at a very young age. I cannot even imagine that kind of pain. It's just beyond anything you could imagine. And he said, long time ago, that Guantanamo must be closed. Of course, President then Obama failed to close the prison, but I do believe, and I hope, and I pray that Mr. President Biden shut down the camp, because it's an assault against American values and against human dignity. And Americans, by and large, are good human beings. And this prison says much more about those who created it than those who were dragged from all four corners of the world to it.
And Nancy, how do you feel about President Biden's chances of closing the prison?
I think President Biden can close the prison if the political will is there. But the prison, we need more than just closing it. We can't just move people to another place and have indefinite detention. These, about 30 of these prisoners are called forever prisoners. I don't even know what that means. What does forever prisoner mean under the United States system of justice? We don't have such a thing. We have life without parole, but that's for people who've been convicted. These people have never even been charged with a crime. 6 of them have been cleared for release, one as early as 2009, and he's still there. So those people, it ought to be easy. They find homes where they will be safe and where they want to go. It may be where they're from, it may not be, but then the others have to be released. We just don't hold people for years and years and years who we don't even charge with a crime because we don't have the evidence. As to the others, the few who have been charged, including one who's my client, Abraham al-Nasri, they have to be provided with all the process that's due under the U.S. criminal justice system. And that means to me, getting rid of these military commissions, which were created out of thin air, and giving them the rights that they would have in a normal setting to decide what they're going to do, whether it's to plead to something, plead guilty, go to trial, whatever they want. It can be done. It can be done in 4 years if there is the political will to do it.
Absolutely. Mohamedou, I want to ask you a little bit about your thoughts of the American legal system. Given that the United States law put you in Guantanamo Bay and that a United States lawyer secured your freedom, I'm wondering what this paradox makes you think about the United States legal system, and also what you would tell United States lawyers who are like Nancy, committed to fighting for individuals' rights who have been violated.
The bravest lawyers, plural, I ever met in my life are American lawyers. And I would add, I dare add, those who represent people in Guantanamo. And Guantanamo is a place, again, where the government says they are not going to abide by the rule of law. And lawyers are really, their hands are very tight in Guantanamo Bay. They win, they can win arguments in front of a court of law. But it's up to the government, unfortunately, to abide by the court's orders or not, because the way the system is designed, that a judge cannot send police and get me out of the cell. They can only tell the government to release him. The government does not really want to release him. And this shows us actually the vulnerability of democracy, because I want to live in a democracy. I don't want to live in a dictatorship. But the system, the regime of is a dictatorship regime. This is not like your regular lawyers. We cannot have private conversation with our lawyers. They can listen to everything. And lawyers cannot fight in the public court because they can only fight with what they're given. And that the government decides what to give them as material to fight.
I'd like you to consider releasing your letters.
To a newspaper?
Maybe a book. People need to read your story for themselves. And it'll put pressure on the government to give us a court date.
I'm ready for that.
Would you like me to step outside?
Yeah. Keep going.
You don't want to pray?
Are you religious now? Why do you care?
I don't. I care about you.
What do you want me to sign, Nancy? Who am I suing today? God?
No one today.
Then why are you here?
No reason in particular. I just didn't want you to be alone.
I also want to talk a little bit about your relationship with each other. I noticed that you all have seemed to develop a really close relationship. And Nancy, I would like to know, is that typical in your cases? And, does it make it harder to represent someone who, when you get to know them so closely?
I rarely get to know my clients as closely as I've known Mohamedou. Most cases start and are over fairly quickly. I always find something I can relate to with a client, even one who's charged and maybe guilty of something really terrible. But in the usual case, if a client is in prison or even out of prison, You meet with the client for an hour at a time, maybe two. You find out what the client needs. You know, if he's in prison, do you need me to make sure your cat or your dog has a home or whatever? You know, is there something you need that we can do for you? And then we talk about the case. And then I go home. With Mohamedou, I spent 2 or 3 days at a time with him. In Guantanamo, you fly down there, you can't say, well, I'm finished, I'll catch the next flight out. There is no next flight out. You fly down on Sunday night, you fly back on Thursday or Friday. That's how it works on the military transport. So in the early days, there was a private company, but it was the same schedule. And so we had years when nothing was happening. In the early years between 2005 and 2008, very little happened. Very little, except that we filed our Freedom of Information Act requests and got some good evidence for him. We got his medical records, which turned out to be extremely important to prove what he was saying had happened to him. But then after we won the case and the judge ordered his immediate release and the government appealed, we then again, that was from 2010 to 2016, that's 6 years. And for 5 of those years, nothing was happening. So I would go, and then 2 months later, Terry would go, and then 2 months later, I would go. Some of the time, we'd have to shift around because we were in trial or something was going on. But we tried to get there every couple of months, and we just talked. You know, we got to know each other in a way that I have gotten to know few other clients in my life. And Mohamedou has become a part of my family. His son is my godchild. We really are related, in my view, at this point, and we will be forever. There's a saying that I've heard that if you save someone's life, you're responsible for them forever. So I think I'm responsible for Mohamedou forever, and I'm happy to be.
So there's a quote in the movie that I really love. And I wonder if you actually said it. It says that when I stand by my client and I insist that he gets a fair trial, I'm not just defending him, I'm defending you and me. The Constitution doesn't have an asterisk at the end that says terms and conditions apply. Did you actually say that, Nancy, or is that just like a movie thing?
I didn't say the Constitution has an asterisk and terms and conditions apply. The rest of that I did say, and it came from an op-ed I wrote to the International Herald Tribune and the New York Times in 2010 called "I'm a Terrorist Lawyer and Proud of It." And that's what she's saying at that point. And I do believe that when I'm defending anyone, I am defending everyone. And that those people who complained then, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Bush, who complained these lawyers should not be representing these people in Guantanamo because, you know, they're terrorists and they aren't, and the lawyers are just like them. I said at the end of that op-ed, and I think that's what is being portrayed in the movie, that those people might find themselves on the other side of the law someday. And I hope there are lawyers ready to defend them, because that's what we do. And we do defend the rule of law. And I am so thankful that in a Hollywood movie, we were able to say, we defend the rule of law, because that's the fundamental issue.
Absolutely. Mohamedou, I'm wondering, so along with that quote, what advice would you give to human rights lawyers and policy experts to ensure that those terms and conditions that Nancy spoke of, that they don't apply?
First, I would like to say that Nancy stole my line when she said that I was family, because that's exactly what I was going to say. And we fight. We when I deliberately try to be obnoxious, because I feel really very comfortable around her, and I don't like have any mask. And you see, if you are in prison, this is not something that anyone can ascribe to. It's very dehumanizing to put someone in a cell and deprive them of everything that other human beings do. Like, I cannot decide when to go to sleep. They can turn on the light whenever they want. I cannot decide when to wake up because they can make noises and they can wake me by force. And they did. I don't decide what to eat. I don't decide whom to socialize with, if any. I don't decide whom to call. I don't call anyone. I cannot call anyone. I cannot send letters to anyone except what they decide. I cannot receive letters from anyone. And this goes on and on. When I get angry, I have to deal with my anger in myself. I cannot go and blow steam outside. I cannot do that. So very important to a lawyer, human rights lawyer, to understand they deal with broken people. This is not a regular person. No, because lawyers, they want to get you out of prison, which is good. But maybe the person has much more important things to them than going out of prison, like their reputation. I saw a detainee. I saw him with my eyes and I spoke to him. When they told him you are going out of Guantanamo Bay, he was crying. He said he was afraid. He doesn't know the outside. He said, I want to go back to my mother. He said, we cannot send you to your mother. We'll send you somewhere else. And he said, no. And I tried to convince him, get out. You may see your mother. But I just want to tell you, those are broken people. And it's very important to consider, to talk to them and let them tell you what really they want.
And so, Mohamedou, you said you're in Mauritania now, and you mentioned that you haven't been able to go back to Germany. So I'm wondering, what are your plans and hope for the future? What's next for you?
My plan is to not shut up, because Big Mouth got me to Guantanamo Bay. Big Mouth got me out of Guantanamo Bay, and Big Mouth is going to roll the rest of my life. Well, that's who I am, and I'm not going to. And my lawyer tried a lot to protect me, but I said, you know what? I'm a free man. I'm going to say what I want to say. And I'm going to do it for human rights.
Absolutely, as you should. And I mean, I'm interested in knowing, in the movie, it depicts you as initially trusting and joyful and kind. And I mean, amidst everything that happened, how did you maintain that?
I don't know the answer, but I always tell the guards who ask me, why are you so upbeat? I didn't know what upbeat meant back then. But when I understood, I always gave them the answer that I want my humiliation to be as cheap as possible, And it's not. I'm not going to give anyone the satisfaction, that they succeeded in breaking me, because I mean, you can beat me up, you can do everything, but my mind, you cannot reach my mind, because my mind is in a very safe place.
Nancy, I'm wondering, how has the film changed, or just even Mohamedou's case, how has it changed how you approach other cases?
Every case is different. Every case is unique. In every case, I do, or certainly hope that I do what's best for that particular client. As Mohamedou said, sometimes the only thing you can do is provide accountability. My other case, I'm providing accountability, which is what my client wants. He wants the world to know what happened to him. and for his family to receive damages, which they have. But there are cases that benefit by a lot of publicity. There are cases that benefit by no one knowing anything about them. I have cases that I'm extremely proud of what we did, and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows the client, and that's the way it should be. So that person can go on with his or her life, and no one will know that that person was ever either charged or about to be charged with a crime. Because as I always tell a client, if you go to trial, the client loses even when the client wins, because it's so stressful and the world knows, and there will always be those people who believe that that person is guilty. And it's heartbreaking to see what it does. When Mohamedou got out, we sent a psychiatrist to see him, a wonderful man, a retired brigadier general, Steve Xenakis, who's a psychiatrist. And Dr. Xenakis said that he will not be fully recovered until he has been out of prison as long as he was in prison. And we got some years to go for that. But I have another client, Mohamedou's met, Precious Bedell, and it was a similar case. And similar in the fact that she and I are very close and it took a long time for her to get out. She, in the first years after she got out, she really struggled. And if Precious sees this, she'll know that I'm right. And now she was in for 19 years. And recently I said to her, you've now been out as long as you were in. And you can see that she's doing well now. She's getting a PhD, she's teaching, she's working, she's doing what she wanted to do to help other women like her. One of the things that one always has to keep in mind with a case is that it's about that client. It's not about making good law or are you making bad law or what you're doing. You are representing one person, and that's where all your focus has to be, whatever's best for that person. For Mohamedou, all the publicity we could get was best for him. And I believe his book, Guantanamo Diary, did help him get out. But now I know that Mohamedou agrees with me. We both want to work to see the rule of law restored and to put a lock and key on Guantanamo.
Absolutely. And we're going to conclude there. Thank you all so much for having this discussion, and Mohamedou participating in this, Nancy allowing us to question you as well.
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank you
having me.
for